This press conference is titled Views from the American Heartland, Diverse Midwestern Voices on Copenhagen. I think the impressions you're going to hear from people today are not necessarily going to be identical. In fact, there may even be disagreements. But we certainly aren't going to go deep on those. The main thing we wanted to do today is to give you a sense of the breadth of views from a bunch of different voices from the Midwest, all people who've been here all week, what their impressions are from the first week of COP15 and what they hope for in next week. But I've come away from the first week feeling optimistic that there is going to be at least a political agreement, if not a binding legal agreement. And I could be wrong about this, but I also have come away with the impression that there will be one agreement coming out of this rather than two. In other words, we won't have an amended Kyoto Protocol and then a second agreement, but a single agreement. Next up is Sarah Mulkoff. Sarah is from Michigan. She's with Clean Water Action there, but she's here in Copenhagen as one of the youth delegates. There are 10 youth delegates under the auspices of the Will Steger Foundation based in Minneapolis. Sarah?
Thanks. As Rolf said, I'm one of the 12 Midwest youth represented here at the UN conference, and we come from the 7 upper Midwest states, bringing the perspective that our region is affected just as the rest of the world is. And specifically, we have a lot at stake within our region and a lot at risk. We have plentiful resources in protecting the Great Lakes and plentiful opportunities in advancing renewable energy. And so we intend to bring these views and these perspectives into international negotiations. And so being here, we're also part of a much larger delegation of 500 youth from the United States. And since arriving on the December 5th, we immediately went right into a conference of the youth with an enormous collaboration amongst not only the 500 American youth who are here, but over 2,000 youth that are represented from across the world. And so right off the bat, we've been working to build collaborative partnerships strategically with regions who are affected similarly by effects of global climate change. And so last night we had a collaborative meeting with the Chinese youth in developing integrative solutions in which both of our countries can seek transitions into the clean energy economy. And also, since being here, we've each specified individual policy interests among the tracks that are being discussed here, those being finance, mitigation, adaptation, technology transfer, and forestry and equity issues. And so we've each taken these policy issues and formed our own U.S. youth stance on them and have been taking part with with being involved in special briefings by the U.S. State Departments, and the youth have been organizing strategic questions in which we can get our voice asked to the representatives as well. So we've been really grateful that that they've been able to work with us and collaborate and actually call for specific meetings just with youth delegates. And additionally, one of the way that really ties this back home to the Midwest is that everything we're learning here, we're communicating through social media back home to our partners in the Midwest. Throughout the fall semester, we worked on doing several class presentations at schools across our Midwest states. And since our time here, we've been writing blog entries and Twitter updates and collecting photos and videos to really recount the activities that we're going through here and to translate it to the youth back home in order to really continue the message that pushing domestic policy is essential in order to get an ambitious binding agreement out of these UN talks.
My name's Kate Knuth. I'm a state representative from Minnesota representing New Brighton and Arden Hills, which are some of the suburbs of Minneapolis and St. Paul. And being at the UN conference is a really exciting opportunity to see the energy and the excitement and quite frankly, the huge belief in the need for real action on addressing climate change as as a world, as a country, and as a region in the Midwest. And all of those perspectives are represented here. And earlier today, I had a chance with several of the youth with the Steger Foundation to hear from Commerce Secretary Locke. And in his remarks, he said, anyone interested in a job or in jobs needs to be engaged in the climate change debate. And I think for the Midwest, that really matters. We don't produce a lot of our own fossil fuel energy. We import a lot of that, but we have wind, we have solar, we have very large innovation companies, we have a very engaged civil society, and these coming together, I think, can reflect the kind of energy and belief that we need to address climate change. And we're going to be making difficult choices, but it means we'll be having the better choices later. And as a representative from Minnesota, I think the thing that's most exciting here is to see a younger generation not just saying this is what we need to do, but living it each day here at the conference. Because I think they understand as they transition into the job market, if you want a job in a stable climate, you're going to need a job helping to create that stable climate. And the agreements being worked on here will translate to that all over the world, and we need to keep working for strong federal legislation in the United States and regional legislation as well in Minnesota. Our companies need that market stability in order to harness the innovation and the hard work we know is there in the Midwest.
I want to really stress something and hope that everybody will hear this message. There is no economic activity in the world that's more affected by climate change than agriculture. And in the developing countries and in the developed countries, one of the things we discuss very often is how we're going to feed 9 billion people in this world by the year 2050. That's going to be a challenge, especially in that long-running crisis management that we call the developed countries and food security. That's not getting better, it's getting worse. We have 1 billion people now who go to bed hungry every night, and we're going to have to do something serious soon to fix that.
It's striking. I've never been to one of these before. This is my first one. I am told that this is the biggest ever, though. And in fact, I think there are 2 factoids that suggest the kind of momentum that is behind the nations of the world finally coming to agreement on this issue. One is that next week the organizers expect more than 113 heads of state to converge on Copenhagen, the highest number ever at one of these events. And there are 34,000 people registered for this event, which is way more than they expected. And in fact, the Bella Center is only supposed to hold 15,000. So take that for what you will. I think it's a sign of real momentum.